We're live on Spiritual Psychics TV with Paul Bannister and his guests for Spiritual Talk.
Hi everybody and welcome to Spiritual Talk here on our home at SPTV. It's 8 p.m. on a Thursday evening. Where else would you rather be? Yes, I know, maybe down the nightclub if you're that age. But if you're like me and your knees have gone and you can't dance anymore, welcome. Please join us tonight. We've got another brilliant guest. By the way, just to add this, I didn't really dance when I was of a certain age. I couldn't dance. I had two left feet. Anyway, moving on swiftly before I dig a very big hole for myself. How is everyone? How are you tonight? Let us know where you're coming in from. Let us know that we're live, because sometimes we're not sure if you're hearing us or seeing us. Let us know you're coming in. Also, we would really appreciate if you could share the love, get us shared out there, because we have some great information coming in from our guests, and we'd love you to hear us company. And we've got one already. Hi Terry, good to see you tonight. Good, thank you for coming on. Hi Stacey's here, and yeah, just let us know where you're coming in from, guys. We've got Tracy coming. Hi Tracy, good evening. And quickly say hello to Sophie and Emily. Hi Sophie and Emily. And also Christine. Good evening to Paul, she's put on there. Let us know where you are though, guys. We'd like to know that we're reaching the four corners of the world. And hi Lou, good to see you. I know Lou's in Nottingham, so I hope that part of the world is all good. Hi Helen, how you doing? Good to see you here, and thank you for joining us tonight. We have got another great guest tonight. Oh, we got MJ. Now MJ, I know you're over there in the United States of America, so just let us know. How do I pronounce that? Melvin from Somerset. I always, my terrible accent. Try not to do accents. I'm gonna. And MJ's come back. He's in Virginia. I should know that, MJ, shouldn't I? Welcome. And Claire, she's here tonight with us, and she's in Paul, in Dorset. It's great that you're joining us. And yeah, guys, I wish you could hear Richard in my ear. We are doing readings, but not throughout the show. We're going to do them. We're lucky enough to, we had to hold our guest down and kind of torture him in a very persuasive way to say, yes, he's going to do some messages with us. No, he's kindly said thank you, and we can't wait for those messages at the end. So stick around. We've got Joe here coming in. Hi, Joe. Now, I do know Joe comes in from Norfolk. Hi, Joe. And I'm just, you know what? I'm just going to go for it, guys. I'm also going to mention we've got Catherine coming in from California. That's great. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to keep sharing, guys. Oh, and Jessica from Alabama. We are really getting across that pond now. It's great. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight our guest on Spiritual Talk is none other than international medium Craig Morris. Good evening, Craig.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's good to be back.
It isn't our first time, is it? This is our second time, so it's good to be back. There is an old interview, but I would like to quickly touch on some of your past and how you got into mediumship, and also want to talk about the great man Colin Fry.
Yes.
Because you had, you toured with Colin. So can you tell us a little bit about that as well, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was, so I was kind of going through, shall we say, a bit of a challenging time in life. I was already developing, but I was going through a bit of a time in my life where I was going through the process of coming out and realizing who I was and everything. And I remember distinctively, it was Monday, the 10th of November, 2014, and I've been sat in circle for quite a few years at that point. I'd resigned from my job, decided to email my manager and say, there's my resignation. I was already on sick leave anyway, and I just said, let me know how much notice I've got to give. She just said, don't worry about it, you can go at the end of the day, no problem. That day I flew up to Glasgow, and I was going to see Colin Fry and Derek Acora do a joint demonstration at the Pavilion Theatre. And it was after their dem. I was staying in the same hotel as them, but after their dem, I was invited by them to go and join them and their crew for some drinks afterwards. And sat up chatting away and things. And first thing Colin said to me was, "Did you enjoy the event?" I went, "Yep, fabulous. Good to see you both work together for the first time." And Colin was like, "Well, I'm pleased to hear it. Would you like to join me on tour as a guest medium?" So of course, my mouth hit the ground, and at that point, Colin had said that he'd had a couple of people out watching me at various stems up and down the country where I'd been, and of course, I wouldn't have known that they were connected to Colin.
Yeah.
Got feedback, and he said, "I've liked what I've heard." So yeah, and then it was a couple of weeks later, I think I was doing my first guest spot, shaking like a leaf in front of, I think it was just over 600 people at the Lyceum Theatre in Crewe.
Wow.
In Yeah, up that way, and yeah, it was just an absolute hoot, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then of course went on and worked up and down the country and overseas with him as well.
So, how far down the road was you on your mediumship journey when Colin asked you to join him?
Well, I'd been doing services in churches. I did a few specials here and there. I was doing private readings, but of course, I had the normal job at the time to pay all the bills and everything. So I was pretty much doing. I was doing as much as I could at the time, and I've been sat in circle with Jeanette Abbott
Yeah.
for several years as well, and I'd done a variety of workshops, not just with Jeanette, but also Tim Abbott as well, amongst other mediums, and just kind of was building my knowledge up, and then so when that opportunity comes, so I'd probably been going at that point for what, 5 or 6 years, maybe, I think, something like that, roughly.
Yeah.
And then of course, the rest is history, with, as they say, with Colin.
But for any medium with 5 or 6 years experience, to Colin to turn around, that's going from a kind of an amateur dramatics on to the West End.
Yeah.
That's big. That's a big. I'm sorry to kind of use that example, but it kind of is, isn't it? You're now.
Yeah.
I hate to use this expression. You're now Billy Big Time. There you are. You're top drawer, and there's another level of pressure that comes with that. How did you manage that pressure?
To begin with, I try not to think about it, because I suppose there's so much you don't realise, when it's so different from from being on a platform in a spiritualist church as to what it is being on a platform in a theatre or a hall or something. Because as we know, you go to a spiritualist church and everybody already there already knows what to expect from you, so there's not really a huge amount of pressure. Whereas you go and do more Dems Joe with Joe Public that
Yeah.
perhaps don't go to a church, and they're expecting for you to be able to sort of say, "Oh yes, I've got your grandmother, this is her name, this was the day she was born, this is
Yeah.
how she died," and be proper specific. And obviously that's our intention, but dealing with the pressure, you try not to think about it. And somehow that night when I went out, I mean, how they didn't hear it on the microphone, but I was shaking. But in the end, I suppose, really sort of, once you're in that energy with the spirit world, and you kind of, I suppose, let go and just say, right, let's just do this. And you're talking to that one person, even though there's another 600 and odd people there, you're talking to that one person, so it feels almost like there's just you and that one person. So that's generally how I go with it. And I suppose, the best way, really, I suppose, is just try not to think about it, because if you overthink it, then you end up going more and more into your mind, and you just end up sort of coming out of that mindset of like, let's just do this.
Because there is that danger of becoming self-aware that you're in front of a lot of people,
Yeah,
and suddenly you've just dropped out slightly because you become very self-conscious.
yeah.
And managing that, if that happens to you, is that something that has happened to you?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Like,
Yeah, it's I think for a lot of mediums it would have happened to, but a
Yeah.
part of that, it's just one thing I've learned over the years of doing this work is just be honest. Some of you will know Billy Cook, is a very dear
Yeah.
friend, and I've heard him so many times when I've had the pleasure of sharing workshops with him. He's always turned around and said to students, whatever you do, just be honest. Never,
Yeah.
don't lie, just be honest. And
Yeah.
that's something that it's always been in the back of my mind. So when I'm on that platform and I'm giving that message, and all of a sudden it just drops out of my mind, or I'm like, hang on a second, what was I saying? I actually make a joke out of it now. And I just say, do you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I actually have no idea what I'm saying. Remind me, sir, what was it that I just said to you? That was it. That was the one.
Yeah.
I kind of make a joke out of it. And I always say to people, you know what, everyone, that just shows we're human. We
Yes.
are human, and it might be that it happens because I'll become aware of somebody else, or I'll just get something else in my mind. Times that I've been given a message, and then something over the opposite side of the room, somebody's just jumped into my mind. I'm like, oh, would you understand this, this, and this? Yeah, right. I'll be there in a minute, and then gone back to this person. So it's all
So
just part of the experience, I think.
it is, and one of the reasons and one of the inspirations why I wanted to create Spiritual Talk in lockdown was so people could get or understand and get into the mind of the medium and understand how we connect, how it works, take away some of the mumbo jumbo, as it were.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to touch a little bit on when you're in that moment, how present do you feel? Do you step aside? Is it just an unconscious knowing the information? And you said yourself, what was I saying? That in itself
Yeah,
implies it's a knowing, it's coming from somewhere other than your own mind. So
absolutely.
you're not even connecting to that thought form or those ideas that are coming from the loved one that you're connecting to. Is that real? That your experience? Are you consciously aware of that?
I think the best way to describe it really is just like having a daydream, in all
Yeah,
honesty. It's
yeah,
like having a daydream. You're in that mindset, and all of a sudden you're just sort of staring into nowhere. You have an awareness of what's going on, but you're somehow subconsciously or consciously just aware of more so of nothing in front
yeah,
of you, but aware of everything at the same time. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it. And and sometimes, you have your own little telltale signs as well, of course, when you're getting into that
yeah,
energy. Everybody's is different, of course. And when I'm doing it, I tend to cough a little bit, and I know I'll do it through the night because we're talking about that subject matter. So it's for me, it's I suppose really the best way to describe it. I suppose it's more of a knowing, but really the way to describe it in my eyes would be like having a daydream.
yeah. Yeah. And so do have a lot of guys that are developing or actually mediums that are working, and it's kind of good to know what, especially for the budding mediums that would like to give a message but are not sure, even to those skeptics. And what would you say to those skeptics if there was a skeptic in front of you? How do you deal with those skeptics? Do you just carry on and be not be blasé, but you just give that message?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't say anything to them. I just carry on. At the end of the day, I've learned over the years that not everybody's going to get what we do. Not everybody
Yeah,
wants to
yeah,
get
that's
what
true.
we do, and
Yeah,
there's very much a difference in. So when somebody comes along to my evenings, if they I did a dem in Coventry later last year, and
yeah,
brand new venue, thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great night, and at the end of the night, there was a gentleman who'd had a message, and he came over to me at the end, and he just said, he goes, to be honest, and I'd actually said this to him. I said, it's almost as though it's like your wife should be getting the message tonight rather than you, because you're the one that's being dragged along. And he went, absolutely. So when he came up to me afterwards, it was actually his brother who came through,
ah,
and with things that were being said, like that there was a football T-shirt that was brought and lots of other different things. The guy said to me, he goes, he said, I've come here tonight, literally dragged along as you said. He said, but also I've come along as a skeptic. He said, it's not my thing. I said, well, as long as you've come along as a skeptic, that tells me you're open-minded, and the fact
yeah,
that you're here, not just because
yeah,
your wife's dragged you. Whereas
yeah,
you're not cynical, and it's cynical people that I can't be bothered with, if I'm completely honest, because you can say, oh, there's a jam donut there, and they eat it, and they know it's a jam donut, but they rightly deny, no, that's custard. That is, it's just you can see what they're getting. They know what they're getting, but they'll just completely palm you off.
completely.
So they're the
Yeah,
kind that I can't be bothered with. But I think the best way to describe it with skeptical people, and the best way to deal with it, is just don't think about it. If they're going
yeah,
to be awkward, don't work with them. It's that
yeah,
simple.
yeah,
Just, and I think this is what I would say, and I've said it to my students before now. If you've got somebody who's being awkward and they're like, well, I need a bit more or prove it, I'm like, listen, this obviously isn't going to work for you because it doesn't matter what I give. And I don't go into it. I just say, right, do you know what? Just take the love and the knowing that this loved one's here to say hello, and I am going to move on, and I'll just move on, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because at that point, also, if there are any other skeptical people in the congregation that night, they'll be like, right, if we're going to talk to him and something makes sense, then we just need to be honest. And I will openly say to people, especially skeptics, I'll say, listen, I'm not being awkward, because that's usually one thing they'll say to me. I'm not being awkward, I'm not. No, that's fine. Just be honest. If I'm right, I'm right. Say yes. If I'm wrong, then tell me no. I'll get it
Yeah.
sorted. So yeah.
Just quickly before I ask you because I can sit here and ask you questions all night. Sorry about that, everybody.
That's all right.
But Jennifer's asked a great question. And people have this kind of idea that this happens all the time, that we can connect with our loved ones. But Jennifer's asked, have you heard from Colin since he's been over in spirit?
Yeah, I have. And it's not something, I suppose some people might think that perhaps I sit and I become aware of him every day. No, it's not the case, because of course, just like all of our loved ones, our loved ones, my granddad, I'll become aware of most days, I suppose, like my nan and others. But, Colin wants to be around his family, his loved ones that he's left behind. Yeah. But sometimes, I might be driving somewhere and I might just have a moment of thought, or I might just think, I did it, funny enough, a little while ago. I've just sat downstairs, I've been watching TV or reading my book, and I thought, I just feel the need to sit. I just feel like I want to sit. So I just dimmed the lights, put the candle on, and I just sat for half an hour and became aware of a few people, and Colin was one of them. And sometimes it's just that little bit of an inspiration. It's just that little, but that doesn't always happen. I don't always get Colin. Like I say, most of the time it could be my nan, my granddad. It could be other people. But I have heard from him, and through sittings as well.
Gosh, I want to ask you about your guides. And that's one thing I'm quite hot on, because there's a lot of misconceptions around guides and ideas about how we connect. Now, I know it's relative to your own experience, of course. Do you know your own guides?
I have an awareness of one guide. I have an awareness of one guide, definitely. I have done for years. I don't know much about that guide in particular. I remember doing a meditation once, and with the intention of, let's go meet the guide, let's go and see who this is. And I just remember going into a room, and there was two chairs. I sat in one. To begin with, there was nobody sat in the other one, so I sat there. And just as I sat there, I became aware of a gentleman that was sat in front of me, and the words I heard were, "What would you like to learn today?" And I went, "Just teach me." And I think, and this is just my opinion, and of course everybody's open to their own naturally, but mine is, I don't get too et up on who my guides are. And the way that I tend to explain it is, you imagine you're watching a TV show, we'll say this morning, for example, on ITV. You as the viewer, you're trusting the presenters as to what's going on. So we can't see what's going on behind the cameras. We can only see who it is that's talking to us. Now, being the presenter, you imagine, so you're talking into that camera, you're talking to your congregation, but you can't necessarily see who's behind those cameras, because you've got all them lights as well. But you just know that they're all doing their job. You've got people in the control room that are saying, right, we're going to do this now. This is going to happen. This person's going to come in. You've got to do that. You can't see them, but you know that they're there. And you, as that presenter, you're putting your trust in that, as long as they do their job, I'll do what I need to do. Let's get on with it. So that's kind of my take on guides. I know that they're there, and I don't fret too much. But when I do work, I often talk about my nan and my granddad, and I very much become aware of them when I work. Again, I talked about those telltale signs. I have that with my granddad, and I'm like, right, he's here. I know I can work. So, and the same with my nan.
Yes, that's interesting that they're a part of that process of your work.
Yeah.
So some people believe it's a higher guidance, and some people talk about gatekeepers. How do you feel about the term gatekeeper stroke guardian?
I personally, I wouldn't use gatekeepers. For me, the way I would talk about it, it's a guide or guides, and I do feel, I will be honest, I do feel that, I talk about my nan and my granddad and the one guy that I have an awareness of.
Yeah.
But I very much believe, and I would say no, that there are more guides than that. I don't feel as though we've just got one guide. I feel that
Yeah.
we've got more than one, for different reasons. If we could be doing a demonstration, yeah, you've got your main guide, but then let's say, if you take a divine service at a spiritualist church, you might have a different guide that wishes to express through your address, your philosophy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just I wouldn't call them gatekeepers or anything. For me, they're just simply guides who have a big job, of course. But I just think that we call guides.
Yeah, it's difficult because everyone has different experiences.
Yeah.
But do you think it's also the experience that we have with the guides? It could be more about the person when they have, they suddenly roll out big names with them. Jesus is my guide. Lovely. But really, is that more about the person, do you think? Do you think that's their need? They need
Yeah,
that validation?
I mean, the thing is, it's. And I've even heard I've heard of mediums saying that even well-known mediums are their guides from the
Yeah.
spirit world. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
And I kind of question it. Like, well, if you've been working for how many years already, why is it now that because that well-known mediums all of a sudden passed? Why on earth would it be that all of a sudden they've gone to the spirit world now from the physical world? So why is it that your guides that have been with you for all these years are now shipped off and sacked, to have a new name or somebody else? I don't get it. But you made a good point as well. Everybody's experiences are different,
Yeah.
and I also think it's right to say, again, my thought process is that it doesn't matter how much or how many years we do this, how many demonstrations, sittings, workshops we take ourselves, we'll never know all the answers. We can
Can
have
you
an experience.
I do like to imagine sometimes there's like an ethics committee, like they have in Parliament, where
Yeah.
they'll call you up. Now, look here, Mr. Bannister, come here, come before. And there's Gordon sitting there and Mavis Patilla. Now, you did this, you should have done that. So I kind of I
absolutely.
humor myself with that in my mind. I am very aware of my guides, but it links to a past life experience that I had through regression. So I kind of, but I knew of where he was from before I had that regression experience. So there is a kind of link there. Jamie's asked a really good question as well. A little bit off topic, but a really good question. Thank you, Jamie, for asking. Do spirits come around loved ones at the end stage of life? Have you experienced a lot of people at the end of their life, Craig? Or
Only I've had. So I remember years ago I was in the West Midlands and I was giving a sitting to somebody, and I as I was talking to the lady that I was giving a sitting to, it turned out, I believe, mother-in-law, I believe, from what I can remember, and the mother-in-law had got dementia, Alzheimer's.
okay.
So I said to the lady I was reading for, I'm aware of this lady. She makes me feel this, this, and this, and so on. And I got with a bit of a strange look, like, well, yeah, okay. So I just carried on. And I said, but she's taking me. I said, she's not telling me too much. I said, but she's making me feel I'm in this bedroom. So I then viewed this bedroom, described it. She went, well, that also makes sense. And then as we were getting on, we were about halfway through, and she stopped. She goes, Craig, I've got to say, she goes, the lady the things that you're saying make sense to one person. She goes, but that lady's not passed yet. She goes, it's my mother-in-law and she's in a vegetative state at home. And the room you've described, the few bits I put out there, she said that's the room that she's in our house. She goes, that is it. So if that's what Jamie means there, then yes, I've certainly had that before. But then some mediums might think, well, that sounds scatty, that can't happen, and all of this. But why can't it? Is what my question would be.
I have seen mediums do the same. So I'm not. This is not a camaraderie thing, but I have seen it happen, and I've also had a similar experience. So I 100% believe that because then we go into what is consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, the mind isn't within the body. The mind is a part of the brain. The brain facilitates the mind, but the mind is external. Like people that have TM meditation experiences where they suddenly become aware of they're out of the body and they're looking down at themselves. And there's an American scientist who came to Cambridge, and he met a TM teacher, but the two didn't go together. He was a scientist. He was his degree was on some kind of science, and there he was having this out of body experience. Like, well, hang on a minute, my mind isn't of my body. So, and that's a whole natural concept that as a human race, so I'm sure at some point we'll discover and be able to tap into more, but which then figures, if we're consciously connecting, it's pretty much similar to when spirit come to us anyway. It's a very similar experience, but it's just how we control that and how we receive those messages. Do you do anything in terms of a discipline to hold that? So when we don't laugh at me for admitting this live on air, I can be a bit of an airhead sometimes. Yes, me. I used to get the chalk thrown at me when I was at school. Now, I was at school a long time ago. It'd be the chalk or the rubber from the blackboard. Bannister, are you paying attention? But I used to be a bit dreamy.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I kind of wonder if, because I don't always hold that for I'm a bit dreamy, is there a discipline with holding that focus, would you say, with spirit?
I think so, yeah, because you can easily come out of them. You can easily come out of out of it and put your own mind into it.
Yeah.
And I think, and the way I describe it to people is it's just a case, like when I work, even when I'm doing Zoom sittings on here, I'll always say to the sitter that's in front of me, I always say, right, you'll see that as I'm working, I'll be looking out and using to the corner of the room, etc., or I'll find my little focus point. And I jokingly say, it's at that point I look like I should be in a straitjacket. But it's just my focus point, and I know that when I go back to that point, wherever it is where I'm working, that's where I can that's where I'm going back into. So I might get a few pieces of evidence as I'm looking at that area, wherever it is. Then I put it out, right, who understands that, right, fabulous. And then all of a sudden, because I've gone from that focus point to then placing that communicator with that person, that's where then my focus point comes to. So I think there is a discipline, absolutely, because it's one thing within mediumship that you can pretty much will guarantee that's going to happen. You're going to overthink, and it certainly happens so much, especially in the earlier days. It happens a lot, and it's not bad. It's just it happens. It's just part and parcel on how we learn that discipline of keeping our minds out of the actual message of overthinking, but keeping our consciousness aware of what it is that's going on within that daydream.
Yeah. Because when you think about as a discipline, you've got to have that communication there, and then you've got to have that communication with your contact here.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself, you're spinning these plates. That in itself is practice. Now, a part of building the practice, because like I said, there'll be a lot of budding mediums out there, or even mediums that have been working for a long time. They'd love. Oh, hello. Tim's just said hi, Tim Abbott, and Tim just made. He's just put a great quote, actually. I think awareness, which is a mental activity within the act of mediumship, has to have discipline where the medium is conscious. Don't start me. Don't start Georgina and me, he says. So absolutely, I totally agree with that. But a part of that, meditation is key for you?
I say meditation. I mean, I don't sit and do like a full-on, when we say full-on meditation, before I do a sitting, I always like to take some time out just to clear the mind and of any thoughts. And also just to take that time to set my intentions as well. As I take that time to invite in the spirit world, to say whoever it is that I'm working for. Like I did, I did some sittings earlier, and I did just that. Played a little bit of music and just to still slow down the energy as such, and more so the mind, and then send up my thoughts and intentions. So it's important for me in a way to do that. So I'll always do that before a demo sitting or a workshop. But it is important as well, more so to to have just some time for me, to be honest, because sometimes things happen. I suppose, what's the word I'm after? you know, whatever happens, you know, within this, and sometimes, you know, you'll have a day or a week and you just think, what on earth has happened here? And sometimes it's a case of, do you know what? I just need to sit. I need to sit to become and sort of like have some, I say teaching for myself, but to have some inspiration for myself
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
my guides, etc. So absolutely.
Tim has we just sorry Tim we the message got cut off a little bit. We've just seen your full message now. And consciousness doesn't start, Georgina, measuring. This can be achieved through meditation practices, in my opinion. Okay, that makes more sense for me now. So and by the way, Tim, we'd love to have you on Spiritual Talk anytime soon. If you'd like to be a guest, we would love to have you on. We might as well, as we've got Tim here watching, we would love to have you on a guest, Tim. So
I have to say,
no
I mean,
pressure.
I've known Tim for years, and he's just somebody who just has a vast amount of knowledge. So
That would be
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
That
that'd
would
be
be
good. That would.
fantastic. So, okay. What I think is really important within mediumship itself, and you kind of expressed it. What is meditation? It
For
is
me,
awareness. It's like awareness, isn't it?
yeah, meditation. I mean, excuse me. I mean, as Tim says there, first of all, you know, meditation is brilliant for you know, for mediumship practices, because what it does is, for me, meditation for me can be utilized in different ways. Whether that is, you know, whether you're preparing to work, because by meditating, it's giving you discipline on clearing the mind. It's like, right, I'm ready to work now. And it's like, right, I'm just going to go into that state of consciousness of whatever it might be, wherever I go. It's like, right, there we go. Thank you very much. But also, meditation can be good for you, just yourself. You
Yeah.
know, it can be. I mean, and I know, there you go. There's his email address.
Oh,
Drop him an
fantastic.
email.
Thanks, Tim.
Definitely well worth getting on here. I would, and also, like I say, for yourself as well, for that time when you're at home and you feel just the need to be able to just sort of sit and be in the company of your own, not just loved ones, but your, you know, your own inspirers from the spirit world as well. So I think meditation can play a key part in different areas within our mediumship, to be honest.
Yeah. But for me, there is a subtle difference between a guided and something where you're just sitting in. Some people call it the power, just sitting in your own presence, just becoming aware. And I think that's probably more valuable than a guided. Do you think?
Yeah,
I know it's
yeah.
horses for courses, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different. I mean, when it comes to when it's for me, when it's come to meditating, I've always enjoyed the guided meditations, to be honest. And I suppose the yeah, that's just me. That's just my personal preference. But also, there are times where I'll just play the music and I'll just sit and I'll just, and I've kind of got an intention, and I'll just, you know, and I'll invite in whoever it is that wants to come and talk to me. And yeah, so I think it's, yeah, it's different for everyone.
yeah. Thanks for that question, Lou. Also, great question here from D. Are there spirits that refuse to communicate or can't?
I don't think I wouldn't say that they can't. Because I think that's, you know, regardless, you know, the ability to communicate from the spirit world is there. But I think communicate, if refuse to, possibly. You know, I read for a lady a few years ago now, and she came and saw me, and her dad dominated the sitting from start to finish. And at the end of it, she turned around to me and she said, "Thank you very much for that." She goes, "I've been to see umpteen mediums, and she said I've waited 29 years for that message
Wow. Oh, that's
from my dad." So
brilliant.
I think, where I wouldn't say that he refused. I think it was just the right time, the right place, not just for the communicator, but also for the sitter as well, which is important to remember.
So I'm gonna throw another one at you. Do you think then that there is certain people that we resonate with naturally within the spirit world? So for instance, I love football.
Mhm.
Okay, I've coached. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. I support Norwich City. Just a quick plug. Sorry, guys. Now, there might be somebody, a dad who died, who's a football fan. He can connect with me. I've got that similar knowledge of football. He's there. He resonates similar to me. And as a gentleman that played in a philharmonic orchestra, sorry guys, I can't play a thing to save my life. So I don't have that natural understanding of his life. Whereas the dad that loved the football took his son to football every week. There is there is something there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think, and funny enough, I was talking about this yesterday, and I was saying, and my thing is that through life we've all had and we all have different experiences. So, for example, and I always throw this into my workshops. I always say, out of the students here, are any of you nurses or have been nurses or in the healthcare industry? And there'll be usually a couple of hands that will go up, and I'll say the likelihood is when you're working, I can bet you a bottom dollar that a lot of your messages that come through when it comes to with how it is that the person's passed and their health, I bet you get more in-depth information than what somebody like me would because of the knowledge and experience that you've had. Somebody that's amongst us that perhaps has lost a child, if you've lost a child yourself and you've gone through that emotion because you've got that, you will probably be able to be aware of it more so, or not more aware of it, but you perhaps will empathize and have that empathy. But it kind of, in a way, goes back to when we talk about meditating, because when you meditate, if you are truly letting go and saying to the spirit world, right, use me, let's go, and set the intention and say to the spirit world, and I say this to so many people, but set the intention and say to them, right, when you come through tonight, tell me who you are, what your name is, where did you live, where did you work, where was you when you passed, and you'll be surprised at the things that come through by just paying attention. So I think some of the things would come more naturally to us. Again, you mentioned some sports there. I've done karate for years, so when somebody comes through that has gone, or has done martial arts, that's one thing that's just so easy for them to talk about because I can express it. But also, I think really for us as mediums, we could, I think that makes sense. I hope I ain't waffling, but I think that makes sense.
No, it's not, absolutely. And I think that's really important. And therefore you could ask, is it the responsibility of the medium? So one of my experiences, I lost my best friend. Oh, I get emotional thinking about it. When he was 29, and he was like a brother. So I tend to connect with people that take their lives, because I can recognize that loss and that emotion and the pain that people feel. Any loss at any time from any passing, there's always a level of pain, grief, and emotion. It's part of the human experience. But if you have, if you lost a wife, or you've lost, these things build up a picture of you and who you are.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, it's a big one. Actually, sorry, Bernadette, I was just about to go off on one. Bernadette has asked a great question. How do you know who your guides are? How did you build up that picture? Was it something that was presented to you, Craig? Good morning. My name is Tom, and I'm your guide. Where would you like to go today?
I mean, don't forget when we first start our development, especially for somebody that like myself, there was nobody in my family that came through, through spiritualism as spiritualists. It was just me. So it's not like I'd had that awareness already. So at the time, if somebody had said to me, oh, who's your spirit guide? I'm like, what's a spirit guide? That would have been my response, because I didn't have any of that knowledge. So it's only when you start to sit in circle and you begin to have more of a sense of what it is that we're doing. And again, many a times where I sat in circle with Jeanette and sometimes Tim as well, if he was in the country, so we'd sit and Jeanette would say, just allow your guides to draw close, allow them to inspire you, allow them to this. And there'd be a variety of things where we would meet our guides as such, or certainly have an awareness.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there was that time I was on my own. I decided to sit. I did a short meditation, and I met my guide. And it wasn't that he said to me, I'm your guide. I just knew because the words that he said to me was, what do you want to learn? Those were the words, and they'll stay with me forever. But so I kind of just knew that was my guide. So it kind of happens through your own development. And there are some mediums that will tell you who exactly their guides were, where they were from. Steve, a mate of mine, he's very much that. He can
When you
take.
say Steve, you can name drop. It's okay.
So Steve Holbrook.
Yeah.
So you'll anybody who's seen him work, he'll talk about his guide on most nights because of what happens to his hand as he's working.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he'll
Yeah.
tell
I've seen Stephen. Yeah.
and he'll tell people who his guide is and that actually they track down his guide.
Wow.
And all of that. No, I haven't. I haven't done any of that. But everybody's different. So yeah.
Oh, Noreen's asking another question. Do you think spirit guides come through to you? Also, it's just opened up again. Yeah. Okay. There's a big comment here. So, Noreen, apologies for that. Do you think spirit guides come through to us as a likeness to your personality or energy? For the example, if you are an artist, philosopher, or if you're quiet or outgoing, you will get guides that will draw to likeness of your energy. Personally, while drumming more, I get First Nation coming through. Is that, I'm assuming that's your guide, Noreen? Do you think you get guides as required for your audience or client? That's pretty much what we kind of touched on earlier, wasn't it? And I agree with you, Craig. I do think there is a team of people, isn't there, that work with us. But
absolutely.
but it's difficult, isn't it? Do we need to be aware of them?
We talk about one of the biggest things again as mediums we have to we do and we have to do is we have to put our trust and our faith in the spirit world. And when we talk about the spirit world, we don't just talk about loved ones that are going to come through and connect and communicate with their loved ones on this side of life. But we are talking about our guides and our inspirers in the spirit world, our helpers, depending on how people wish to label them. But for me, we have to trust. I love coming up with analogies, and this is one that I've used many times, and it's just come back to me. When you get on board an aeroplane, depending where you get on board, of course. Let's just say you're flying with an airline, you're going down to Tenerife. So usually you get on at the front of the plane, and you've got to turn right. You just get on board, and you just take your seat and you get on with it. Okay, so you see the cabin crew. You know that they're there. But how many people get on board an aeroplane and off again without seeing the pilots? But yet, if you're on that back row and you've got to get on that back door, you're putting your trust in your faith. You're about to fly for 4.5 hours, but you cannot see who is going to fly you down there. But you have this trust and this faith that whoever it is, they're going to get you there safely, and they do. And you get off, you have a great holiday, you come to the end of it, and you do the same again coming back. So us as mediums, I think we can overthink far too much.
Oh yes.
And I think let's just put that trust into the spirit world and let's say, right, let's just do it. Let's go and have a laugh. Let's go and have a giggle. So that's what I would say on that.
Yeah. I don't like that analogy of airplanes though, because I'm not a great flyer. You open the cabin door and Bugs Bunny's flying a plane. You've got all them kind of things going through your head, or Mr. Magoo, which could be worse. Anyway, thank you for that. I think it was Bernadette, was it? No, Noreen, and she explained it was Native Americans. Thank you for that, Nora. It's brilliant. Hi, Stephanie. She's asked a question. Did Craig have this from a young age, or been more recently?
So when it first happened, I was probably around the age of, I'd say, about 5, maybe. When I looking back now, anyway, probably around about that age, maybe a bit younger or older, not too much though, but certainly around that age. And I would, actually probably would be about 6, something like that. So, of course, not every night, but some nights I'd get up and I'd go to the bathroom. And where we lived, opposite in our house, opposite the bathroom, was my brother's bedroom, and the light would always be on. My brother's door would be left open, and I would, again, didn't happen all the time, but I'd see sometimes a lady stood next to him, next to his bed, and I'd like, oh, okay. Generally thought I was dreaming in the land of Nod, and thought nothing of it. Turned out to be my nan, because my nan passed before I was born, sadly. So I never got to meet her. But and then from there it lay dormant. Nothing happened until I was 19, and that's when it all started for me. Really, I was like 19, 20, when my granddad passed. So and it's so we're coming up now to 15 years. Yeah, 15 years it's been happening for me.
My sister had the same experience. She saw my nan, who sadly passed away before we were born, and recently she saw a Roman soldier at the bottom of her garden. So she sees spirit all the time, but she's chosen not to go down that route.
Oh,
Her words were, she's too. Well, she was very scared at the time when she went to the dustbin and saw a Roman soldier standing there. She ran back in the house. I'd be like, "Oh, did you talk to him? Did you try and communicate?" No. Hi, Tim. Tim's asking another question. Can I ask Craig a question? If you have a piece of evidence from spirit which is correct yet limited, how do you go about empowering that piece of evidence to bring in more depth and contents to that evidence? Thank you for that. I'm going to listen to this intently. Thank you for that, Tim. No pressure.
so for example, let's just say, Paul, let's just say I'm giving you a reading, and hypothetically, let's just say your grandfather's coming through, and and I say to you, oh, your granddad liked to drink. He was somebody who enjoyed the odd tipple, because I keep seeing a pint of Guinness in front of me. You say, well, yeah, actually, that's what he used to drink. So that's all right. That's okay. He's talking about your granddad's expressing that he liked to tipple. So I would then at that point, for me, it all comes down to interaction between you as the medium and of course the spirit world, just like between you and the sitter. So I've given you that evidence. You've said yes, and I'm like, okay, but I want more. I want more, because there's almost like a feeling when you're working. There's a feeling. It's almost like a sense of, hang on a second, before we carry on. There's more here. There's more we can tell. There's a story, and again, people say, well, how do you know? It's trust again. It's trust in that ability you have and that link with the spirit world. So I'll go back to your grand and say, right, well, take me to where you used to drink them. Let's go on that journey. And I'd ask him to help me visualize and show me. And I'd say to you potentially, right, but I know where your granddad used to drink. He shows me a pub. But as I'm looking at that pub, again, hypothetical, I might say, I keep seeing it looks like the Royal Oak, the Royal something. You'll say, actually, that was the pub where my granddad used to drink. But I'd also then say, so therefore you can say, right, and as I'm going in there, I'd turn around and say, but as I'm looking at this pub before we go in, I know that on this main road where it is behind, there's a field where there's a park that the kids would play, and that's where you would go and play with your sister while your dad and your granddad were having a drink in the pub. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So again, you see how you're telling the story, but then you could turn around and say, but as I go into that pub, I can see where there would be this room, but there's also a function room where you would have parties or birthdays, etc. And you'd be like, well, yeah. And then again, it's there. So it might be, well, hang on a second. Your granddad's talking about the family dues that you used to have there as well. So you'd be like, well, actually, yeah, we had several. We had my auntie's 60th or whatever it was. My cousin's 21st. So all of a sudden, from going and saying that your granddad liked to drink, you've then told, it's then your granddad, then with the interaction between me and your granddad, he's then been able to express where it was that he used to drink, the memories that you have of going to that place with him, and also the memories that go with it of the parties and the get-togethers that you would have as a family. So you can kind of go from one thing. It could be anything. He might turn around and then say, and talk about the person that used to work behind the bar. Oh yeah, my nan used to work behind the bar every so often as well. So you see how you can and it all comes down to the interaction between you and the spirit world.
Yeah.
So it's telling the story.
Just to add another aspect to that, would that be more in a sitting, or could you do that within an actual evidential demonstration to the public? Because there's a limit of what you can go into.
Yeah.
and therefore in that moment, what happens? Sorry, Tim, to hijack your question. What happens when you get the no's, or you're getting people that can't remember those aspects? Do you see what I mean?
Great question. Absolutely great, because it happens. But if I've said all those things to you, and then I've got to the point of in my mind. If I've then got to the point and I've said everything up to the point where you used to play in the garden, they used to, your granddad used to bring out the drinks for you while you were playing. They used to sit in the bench in the garden there, and you say, yeah, I remember all that. And then if I say to you, but do you remember the family party that was there as well, or the wedding?
Yeah.
You'll go, I don't remember that. That's okay. I don't stress over that, because everything else that I've said to you, you've understood. I'm like, well, so I would then say, go back and say, but you remember that though, don't you? You know, those last bits that I've just said. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, just remember I've said it, and I'm going to carry on, because there comes a point as well where again you feel it as though if it's not there, then, or you feel as though that, right, we've done as much as we can here, let's now move on to something else. So you have to have that trust again and believe.
Because that in itself can you, when you're demonstrating to the public, you can lose the energy of the public by getting a few things wrong. Like, for instance, I remember starting a charity event, and this dad came in. He said, and I knew where I was going. I could place him, and he even gave me his birthday, 23rd. I even remember this because it made me laugh. 23rd of November. His dad's giving me his birthday, 23rd of. I know you you lit a candle for him, and he went, no. He was just like that. I thought, oh God, great evidence I was getting from Dad.
Yeah.
I couldn't take it. So that was not a good start. So for me, in that moment, I'm not being funny. I'm human. There was 60 people there, and I felt that wobble inside me. There's a wobble, and I looked. People probably think, oh God, we paid to come and see this guy. Oh my word.
Yeah, but you've also got to look at it. If that happens,
it's true.
If that happens and you get a no, you're getting evidence like that. Even though you might feel where you're going, it might be, for example, well, that's where I feel like I am. That's where I feel like I need to be. Then I mean, you probably did anyway. But I mean, that evidence, if it's there and it's good evidence, I would never throw it away.
I didn't. I said, I'm sorry, but he's given me his birthday. Anyway, at the break, he came over and said, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, I don't believe in this stuff, but that was my dad's birthday.
Yeah.
So thanks. Now I know that, but the rest of the audience are sitting there thinking, what is this guy? What is he doing? It doesn't look great, But
no, absolutely.
So then there's another level of your ego, managing your ego, because it's not about, oh, look how good I am, look how clever I am. It's about managing the audience's expectations and the quality of the evidence you're giving. So you don't drop that energy out. It's not necessarily about your ego.
Now, I think what's important here is when it comes to managing expectations with your congregation, your audience, wherever you're working, is be open and honest with them, explain how you work, go into that depth of how you work, because we can talk about education for up and coming mediums. If you're getting that for up and coming mediums, and they're going through classes and they're doing circles, then also I think what's important is for us as mediums to educate Joe Public, because again, you go to a spiritualist church, most people generally know what to expect there. It's all good, of course, until the times come, when you get new faces and new people. So you explain there. But when you're in the Joe Public arena, I always take that little bit of extra time, because I always say to people, listen, whenever I give a name, it does not mean to say it's the name of the person I've got. I don't always know where I'm going. It might be somebody that you're least expecting. So some of you tonight have come in thinking you want to hear from Nan, Grandad, Aunt, whoever it might be, but you may not get them.
Yeah. See, I get frustrated if they're going to give you a name, is there more there? But then is it about? I assume it's about me as a person and my own personal experience in my development. It's great. At the end of the show last 2 weeks ago, I'm Granddad, and my name's Edward. Now, to me, that's best start ever. It's like, way off we go. I've got Granddad, I've got Edward. We are here. Great start, but we were finishing. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we all had that? I know the relationship, I know the name, and then it builds. So I don't know. Is is it to do with the vibration, the connection with spirit? Tim had a good come back with another comment as well. Could we see that, Richard? Sorry, I missed it. Tim. Oh, I missed that. Sorry. So yeah, we had a couple, haven't we? Sorry, guys. I'm just going off because I also want to talk about the evolution of the soul as well with you, Craig. Before I go, guys, it sounds like a philosophy hour. It's not actually. Surely, Tim's put, surely if you get a note from a client, doesn't mean you're not doing mediumship. Simply means client doesn't understand that you're presenting to them, or you've misunderstood something, but the spirit world is presenting to you. Because I agree that it's never spirit that's wrong. It's either my interpretation or the person receiving it. For example, one of the biggest things I've had in my head is your father's ideas of how he was as a dad might be different to your experience. You might love him completely, but he might feel, actually, I could have been a better dad. Yeah. So how do you translate that to someone who idolized their dad, but actually dad's saying he could be better?
You have to be honest. I mean, you have to be diplomatic, and it's easier when you're in a private reading to be that. But when you're doing a demonstration, you I often say to people, can I be honest? You know, even though that is our job, that's what we're meant to be doing anyway. But when I'm asking that, I'm actually saying, can I be a little, and also I'll say, can I just be a bit personal? You know, and I'll just say, do you understand that your dad, and I'll put it in a diplomatic way. And I might say that your dad makes me feel as though there was sometimes it could be hard work in that relationship, and they'll know what I mean. If they say, yeah, I get exactly what you mean. And at that point, they're usually saying, just say it, Craig, just be honest. I say, your dad was a bit of a sod. Your dad was hard work, weren't he? Yeah, that's exactly who my dad was. Because, you know, and again, this is where the importance of it is, that we have to be aware as a medium when we're working. We have to be aware of the energy. So we might be seeing something, hearing something, but we have to be careful, be aware of what we're sensing as well, because we might see one thing, but actually what we're sensing is something completely different. So, yeah, we might have a gentleman that comes through that perhaps wasn't such a great dad in his eyes, or that he could have been there more for his kids, but he did his best. And, you know, by you just allowing the spirit world to express that, you'll do your job as a medium. You'll do your job.
Oh my gosh, there's so many different things I want to say off of that. So when you're holding, all right, thank you for that. I want to come back to Maria's question, a statement, I should say, comment, because it's absolutely bang on. Actually, I'll do it now quickly. I have always believed spirit do it on purpose so that the recipient can go and have that conversation with their other family members, bringing back memories of spirit to be shared. Absolutely, 100% agree with that statement. But guys, I've just had Richard in my ear, and we need a break. We're going to toddle off for a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our guest here, Craig. So, guys, stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.
Introducing the SPTV app, your digital spiritual guide for an enlightening journey like no other. Immerse yourself in a world of audio and visual content crafted to inspire, educate, and entertain. Seek guidance with our card of the day, choosing up to 6 cards for personal insights. Enhance your daily life with our wellness section, featuring nutritious recipes, affirmations, and balanced living tips. Explore our spiritualism section for a deep understanding of the religion, its principles, and spiritual answers. Unravel the secrets of the clairs and broaden your spiritual horizon. Easily find local readers, therapists, centers, or churches with our comprehensive directory. Stay connected with live broadcasts, check our schedule, and get to know our insightful presenters. Delve into the meanings of angel numbers, crystals, and a comprehensive list of divination meanings. All of this and more, available for free on the SPTV app. Download now at sptv.uk/app and start your journey with your digital spiritual guide.
Starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, join Adele and Laura as they host their show dedicated to wellness and positivity. The program will feature special guests and live interactive readings. Tomorrow night from 8 p.m., join Clara for a night filled with mediumship teachings and readings, featuring special guests.
Hi guys, welcome back to Spiritual Talk here on SBTV. And I don't know if you were paying attention or whether you had to make yourself a quick cup of tea, guys, but we was advertising our wonderful app that is available now. Lots of great content about the shows that are coming up, and there's information about some of the presenters and mediums that work on SBTV. So just go. Yeah, and we'll just go on to, before I forget, Google Play to download it, because I'm not techie and I have to remember these things before it goes out. So yeah, don't miss the opportunity. It's a great thing to have on your phone. Nice little SBTV app. You can see what's happening and when. Anyway, welcome back, Craig. Thank you for being here on SBTV with us. We're kind of really getting into the nitty gritty of mediumship, which I think is really, really important, that we kind of talk about mediumship. One of the things that I wanted to get to, Stacey's also, I think Stacey's asked a question. I'll come back to you, Stacey, if you don't mind. I wanted to give viewers an idea, or thinking about the idea of the evolution of the soul. Do you believe in the evolution of the soul? So when we pass over, what do you think happens to us on the other side? Any ideas? Have you had any, I want to say inside information, because people do ask, what happens when we're over there?
Honestly, it's fair to say, no idea. You can have a thought process and a thought of what you would like. And in my mind, I very much believe that when we do pass to the spirit world, and our time comes, I very much believe that whoever's gone before us will be there waiting for us to help us and guide us. I call it the holiday analogy. And for me, when somebody passes over to the spirit world, you imagine what you're doing is, as you're saying goodbye to them from this side of life to the next, you're planning their celebration of life, their funeral. You have that celebration. Imagine you're dropping them off at the airport. You're watching them through security. They take off. I'm using plane analogies again. Sorry, Paul. They're taking off, and they get to the other side. And when they get to the other end, all of a sudden, the people that have gone on that holiday beforehand of meeting them at the airport say, right, come with us. You can have a great time. We'll show you where your room is and everything. Then they'll say, once they're all checked in and they're all settled, they'll say, right, there's the phone. Go and make that phone call back home. Let them know you've got here. And that's when the mediums come into play. So it's that phone call through that medium to this loved one on this side of life. Listen, I've arrived. Guess who I've met while I've been here? So-and-so's here and so-and-so's here. And it's like, listen, I'm having a great time. I'm all right. Go and enjoy yourself now. Don't worry about me. I'm all right. I'll give you a call every so often, but I'm still there in mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, wonderful concept. Wonderful concept.
That's what I would like the idea of it to be.
Okay, can I ask you a medium to medium question?
Go for it.
So, for example, I've noticed this with clients that come back time after time, and over a space of years. Do you notice the difference of the type of message you receive from when you first received their contact, the first contact, to say someone you've had in 6 times over a period of 3 years?
You mean if I'm if I'm communicating with it,
the same soul, the same communication. So, for example, I worked with a family, and different members of that family have been to see me over a period of 2 to 3 years, and I've noticed that when the contact comes in, there's a different energy with them.
I think, I get that, and I think the reason why there would be a different energy is because, so for example, it might be when we'll talk about my granddad, for example. So he'll come through to me, and he'll come through to me in a way of a granddad to a grandson. Whereas when he comes through to my mom, it's from a dad to a daughter. So the relationship is different anyway, and the way that he would be between in those 2 different relationships. So there would be a slight difference, even though the personality is the same, the way that he passed, all of that's the same. It's all the same. But the relationship from the communicator to the relationship of the sitter is very different. And I remember a few years ago, I was in Wolverhampton and I was given a private read, or I was doing some private readings. And as I was doing them, there was one lady who had to sit in, then she'd gone, and then the next person came and sat in. But the strangest thing in my mind was that the communicator actually hadn't left. So all of a sudden, I started working. I said, well, hang on a second. And then all I heard him talk, and he said, are you going to start then, or what? That's pretty much what I got. It was his mom who I was talking to first, and then secondly, it was his partner who I was then talking to second. So the relationship from son to a mother was very different from a partner to partner, because he could be a little bit more, shall we say, a bit more cheeky. He could be a bit more, I say, you know, he would have the mannerism of like having a laugh and having a giggle and using a couple of colourful words, which he wouldn't have mentioned. And I remember there were some things that were mentioned, like where he used to smoke, let's just say, natural herbs. Well, he talked about that memory with his partner, but he wouldn't talk about that memory with his mom, because that was something that she didn't know, obviously. So in that concept, if that makes sense anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you hear certain messages and you hear certain mediums work, and there's been some interesting concepts that I've heard over the years, and I can only go from what I've experienced, but that change, almost like don't worry about me. I remember there was one particular lady that she used to contact her mum regularly. Her mum used to come in, and then at one point she had nothing. And I remember after about 5 years, she came to see me, and her mum came in. And I remember the message was, I've done my time with you now. It's your time to be grandmother. It's your time to go and flourish. I'll be here. But that's why she wasn't around her. It's interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder if we can get away with being grumpy over there, you know, when we're moaning about the football results
we probably won't be grumpy over there, because life over there is going to be so much different to what it is over here, isn't it? It's going to be...
depends how good you've been, Craig. Okay.
Yeah.
Naughty or nice, you know. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Stacey's asked, and I want to go into a whole different field of questions with this, Stacey. Do you feel that mediums who name drop famous people from the other side is a lack of discretion and more about feeding their ego? Now, before we go too much further on to that, I think there is a phenomenon called the ego trap within mediumship. And some of that is about connected to performance, which then creates an unconscious competition within mediumship. And sometimes people name drop, oh, I've spent time with this tutor, I've spent time with that tutor. As mediums on our journey, and we start, how do we avoid the ego trap? Because one thing I think is evident, that we seem to focus on the mechanism of mediumship rather than, again, using that word, evolution of our soul as people growing to be a better person. How do we manage both? Can we manage both of this? Can we grow with just mediumship? Sorry, there's a lot of questions there in one, mate.
To be honest, I sort of rounding it all into one, really. I think, you can. And you know, I think it's fair to say that most mediums, not all, but I say most, because I don't want to think, I'm certainly not singling anybody out at all. If anything, I'll talk about myself when I say there certainly was a point where I got a bit of an ego, and I'm not going to lie, I ain't going to sit here and BS anybody with that. But I was very fortunate that was knocked out of me very quickly. And I was, for me, it's all about surrounding yourself around the right people. And, you know, because when you get told, you know, especially in my perspective, right? So this is my experience. You know, when I was young, I was like 19, 20, you know, I'm developing, I'm giving messages, whether it was in Circle or wherever it might have been. And I'm being told, that was brilliant. That was a lovely message. That was so spot on. It gives you that bit of a boost. It gives you that bit of a confidence boost, if you like. And then all of a sudden, when it's happening more and more, you then have to, you know, at that age, it's like, this is great. But then, like I say, I was surrounded by brilliant people. And again, I know Tim's listening and tuned in with us tonight. But again, him and Jeanette, you know, they sort of, and it weren't just me, there were others as well that were sort of like, now listen, sit down and we're going to tell you. And they kind of in their own way. They brought us back to the plat. They brought us back down to earth. It's like, listen, okay, great, you've done a great job, but now it's that saying, you're only as good as your last message. Now
Yeah.
go out and do that, because you ain't going to be able to do that every time. You're not going to be that clear, or it's not going to be like that every single time you do a message. So in that respect, with that, but also I think what's important is there has to be some, and I choose to change the word from ego to personality.
Yeah.
There has to be some personality when you're doing a demonstration. You don't get me
Yes.
stood up there working as dull as ditch water, with no fun, no laughter, where it's
Oh gosh.
appropriate to remember as well, where it's appropriate, because it's not appropriate in every single message. But it's just about being able to recognise that actually I'm probably getting a bit thingy here, I'm getting a bit too confident. But also, one of the biggest things I'll say to mediums is listen, simply listen, because like I say, I've been very fortunate to have the right, good people to surround me in my life within mediumship. Tim, Jeanette, Billy, Colin, Gordon, Steve, all these mediums that have gone through this journey. So many more years than what I have. I've listened to their stories. I've listened to their journey. I'm like, I'm going to bear that in mind. I'm going to take that on board, because that at some point will put me in good stead with
Yeah.
my journey as well.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I would say with that. There's probably more I could say, but yeah, that's what I probably would say with that.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I use the word ego, because there is an element, it's lovely giving messages, but what a powerful thing when people come up to you and they go, "Oh, what a gift you have, what amazing ability you have." And if you're hearing that constantly, there is a point where you're going to get bigger than your boots, and you need to sort that out. But managing that is quite a difficult thing, because I genuinely believe the bigger the ego, that it will take away from your mediumship in some way.
Yeah, because what you can allow to happen, I feel, what you can allow to happen is that you end up, when you get up there, it's almost like, oh, look at me, look how fabulous I look, and all of this, and and it's you've got to, it's a balance, and it when I've done a demo, somebody comes up. I did a demo, my first in-person public demo I did last week, and it was only an intimate night. It was at my friend's place. She'd got a small room there, so 30 odd 40 people. Lovely night. And there was one lady, as I was working, she swore a bit, to put the emphasis on it. I won't swear, don't worry. But she was saying, "Oh my God," she goes, "You're so good," and all of that. I'm like, "Thank you." And I kind of turn it in a way, and I just sort of, and I just carry on. I just carry on, because and sometimes as well, when somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, you know what, you're," and I'm sure you've had it, and I'm sure there are mediums that are watching tonight as well that have had it, that have come up to you and said, "You're the best medium I've seen in a long time," and
Yeah.
that's great, but also just let it go as well at the same time. Just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, thanks, I appreciate that, but you know what, I wish I was like that every night." Just
Yeah.
just let it go. Acknowledge it, of course, because it's nice that people are taking the time to have that conversation with you, but you've also got to have the balance of thanks for that, and just sort of let it go. It's probably the only way I can describe that, to be honest.
Yeah. So Melinda's asked a question. How do you know if you have this gift? Or can I put it and frame it another way? Do we all have the gift? Can we all create it or work it?
I put my opinion again. Remember, I would suggest and say that everybody has the ability to be aware of the spirit world, and to be aware of that. I mean, my mom's not a medium, far from it, but I've sat, I've sat with her and taken her through just a gentle process of, right, what's Grandad saying to you now? What's he wearing? What can you smell? And she'll say all these things,
Yeah.
and he's there, and I know he's there because I see him myself. So I do believe that everybody has the ability. I don't believe that anybody could stand up in front of on a platform and deliver a message.
Yeah.
But I do believe that everybody has that ability to be aware of the spirit world. Absolutely, absolutely.
But that comes back into the ego. So you've got to have a bit of ego to do the demonstration. So and I was going to touch on humor, but with humor there is a fine balance as well. But
Yep.
I like to, and people laugh at me. Oh, you've been too critical about yourself. I like to laugh at myself, and that keeps me
Yep.
in check,
I,
and
I
not take things too seriously.
you can't. And when I hear when I've heard it in the past now, I've heard it where people have said, "Oh, you shouldn't be having a laugh. You shouldn't be too funny or saying jokes or whatever." I'm like, well, why not?
Yeah,
That person's granddad there used to be a joke teller. That's all he used to do. He used to tell bad jokes, but he told jokes. So that's part of the essence as well. So that's the other thing to remember, that when you're on the platform, yes, you'll put humor into it. Again, I just choose to use the word personality. You put your personality into it, because remember then, as mediums, your mediumship comes alive.
yeah,
You become who you're meant to
yeah,
be. You
absolutely.
can't mimic anybody. If you have, let's just say, you do workshops and you have students, etc. Students will come and watch your work and they'll say, I just want to work like you, Paul. Well, that ain't going to happen. You can nick a few
No,
of my ideas, but
yeah,
there's only one Paul Bannister, there's only one Tim Abbott, there's only one Craig Morris. You can't be anybody else. So for me, personality, humour, all comes into mediumship to help express the personality of the communicator, express the depth of the evidence. But remember,
yeah,
at the same time, it has to be in at the right point, because you can't have a laugh and a giggle when you're giving a message to a mom from their son who's taken their own life. There's no humour there,
absolutely
but
not.
there's certainly a lot of love and there's a lot of emotion that comes through.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on how do you manage that emotion when you've had it personally yourself, because I've had that where I've felt like I've wanted to cry because
Yeah,
I can feel the tragedy of the situation. There's so many experiences on that. But I guess, guys, we need to start do a couple of little messages on the end of the show tonight. And thank you for watching. We love your support. We love you supporting SBTV. Don't forget though, guys, please share it out. So we're gonna do a couple of messages, Craig and myself, and Craig, it's all right if you go first. I'm going to keep talking and ask the guys to keep sharing for a moment, and we'd love you to give names up. Just let us know you're there. Come and say hi, and we'll see who we're connecting with, and we'll go from there. I don't know if you want to work that way or just give what you're getting, Craig, in terms of your
yeah,
connection. It's up to you. But we'll listen up. Listen, we're going to give some evidence in a sec, and Terry's just put up SPTV vacation. Oh, love that. Okay, so let us know if you're there. Just say hello. Michaela's put anything for me. Stacey's put shared. Thank you. VIP and got the app. Well done. Liked, shared, VIP. Yeah, because you become VIP with SPT, guys, if you don't know, which gives you a little bit of extra inside information. And Kim's put yes please, and Lee's put hi. If you have a message, that will be great. Hi Lee, how you doing? I know Lee, but I always call him Barry. Yeah, I don't know how he puts up with me. I don't know, but I've got mild. I'm like Trigger from Only Fools and Horses when he used to call Rodney Dave. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Lee. That's my public apology to you, my friend. And Stephanie's put hey, and I know Cindy was quickly popped up there from Canada. Hi, Cindy. And Kelly, she's put hello. She's here, and we're just going to see if you're feeling anything. Great. How you
absolutely, yeah,
doing?
absolutely.
Oh,
So
great. Well, wait. I'll shut
I,
up
I,
then.
I become very much aware. I've got a lady and a gentleman that I've become aware of. I very much feel the gentleman as he steps forward. I do believe as he steps in, he feels very much like a father to me. And I know that certainly a father figure. I know that as he steps in, there's a sense of, I keep wanting to talk about a stroke that he would have had before he passed. I don't feel as though the stroke actually took him to the spirit world, but I certainly feel as though it played a part in his health deteriorating. And I feel as though there was more than one stroke, is the feeling I get there, because I feel as though I've gone into hospital and come out again, but I feel as though it's happened more than once as well. Is what I want to talk about there. But that's how he's making me feel. The name of Mick or Michael would link in here with this gentleman. Not suggesting that that's his name, but I know that that name would certainly mean something there. And he just gives me the sense as though he has a brother with him on that side of life as well there. So if anybody does understand what I'm saying, then do talk to me as well.
If you're by your keyboards, guys, let us know if it's for you. If you understand the information that's coming in, that will really help Craig with his contact and as he gets the information coming through.
And I've got to say as well, I'll see what comes through, but the lady that keeps coming through as well, there, I actually feel that there was a dementia Alzheimer's with this lady, but I do feel that they are connected. I do feel that they are together there, you see. So this lady makes me feel as though there is a dementia Alzheimer's as well. So if anybody understands the gentleman, first of all, let me go there, because that's where I started before I confused myself, which really, really does not take a lot at all, which is quite easy. So,
Not just me then, mate. It's not just me.
absolutely not. It's yeah. I don't want to give I don't want to keep going yet with more evidence until I've got the yay or nays, basically. So
yeah, let us know if you're hearing, guys, if you understand the information coming through. It's really important. My dad had a major stroke before he passed, and his brother passed a few years before him. No to Mick, though. Don't worry, Bernadette.
I'm not going to worry about that thing. But right, so
same as Melinda, Bernadette and Melinda.
Whoever I need to go to will also understand as well that I feel as though that he would be in hospital when he passed there to the spirit world. That's what I want. Dementia, Alzheimer's, Melinda.
Yeah.
Dad had a couple of strokes and dementia. That's what I want. Melinda, I'm with you because I've got dementia as well. There, I have to say, forgive me, I'm getting excited now, slapping the side and everything. Melinda, I feel as though I need to work with myself if I can, please, because I know that I've got that there because there's a reference of dementia here as well. But he's making a reference as well there, Melinda, that somebody wasn't able to get to him before he passed as well. I feel as though even though we may have seen him or spoke to him, I don't feel as though they made it the time, like on the day that he passed there to the spirit world either, is what I have to say. So would that make sense to you? Before I go more as well, because there's certainly that feeling there, you see. And what else do I? And I just get this sense as well of being in hospital. And let's face it, nobody wants to be in hospital. They always want to be at home. But there's almost like a stubbornness with your dad as well, Melinda. The feeling that I'm not staying here, I'm going home, that kind of stubbornness, not in a negative or derogatory way, but that's how he's making me feel. So I hope those make sense to you. I hope those make sense to you.
Don't forget to keep up. Sometimes we can get a delay online, guys, so don't forget to keep up with those things. Me and my sister. Perfect.
Because then I have to, and also as well, Melinda, would you also understand? I know there was something else I just said there, so I'll go on to the next piece while you can validate that all being well. But would you also understand that when your dad passed as well? Right, there we go. Because I just feel as though about not being at home is how he's making me feel, I have to be honest. But he's making a reference here that when he passed, I feel as though it's, I'm not saying it's on, but certainly feels as though it's near to what feels to be like another birthday in the family or like celebration. He's making me feel as though the time of year that he passed, there was almost like this celebration. Remember for that time of year, not for me passing, remember it for the happier time in life, not me passing, is how he makes me feel as well there. So I hope that makes sense to you as well, that I say to you. And go there first. And also as well, because there was a lady that stepped in as well. So do you understand that your mom is also in the spirit world as well? Because that's how that lady felt to me, you see. So I know I'm just throwing loads out to you, so I'm hoping that you can keep up and it makes sense. My apologies, I tend to work quite quick sometimes.
Yeah, he was in a care home. Absolutely. Lovely. Did you want me? Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I just want to get this these last couple of bits validated, and then I can go into that reason for coming. And then, are you jumping on the same message, or are you going to?
I don't know. I don't think I have, but I feel like I've got mum and dad here, but I think they're different to you.
That's fine. So, I'll go into the reason for coming because I know with time. So to let you, obviously, give you that chance to jump in. So, remember those other things that I said to you. Yes, mum's passed. Okay, because I've got to tell you that mum's here as well. You see, and I don't think the resemblance is between you and mum. But I just know there's that resemblance there, you see, that she's making a reference to. I know it's short and sweet, but I just feel as though I want to say to you that Dad's making me feel that in my mind, I'm back up on my feet again. I know that I've got my back straight, so I know there's a sense of discipline there with your dad, where I feel that you're liking with his personality. But I know that they're here, and they're just singing happy birthday to me as well. So either we've just gone past the birthday, or we've got one coming up that needs to be acknowledged. But please I do want to say the love, but certainly more the strength there from both mum and dad. Now that they're there, and I'll say thank you very much for working. Over to you.
Okay, I'm just worried that I've got your couple, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to carry on because I was trying not to link. Absolutely not. And I've got somebody, I'm hoping I've got somebody different. So, guys, just let us know. Let us know the information that's coming through if it relates to you. love to hear from you. Um, I've got mum and dad here, but I know dad would have gone into the spirit world first, and I believe mum is only a fairly recent passing. I want to say within the last couple of years. Now, as I've both got, it was dad's presence that came in first and connected with me. He's also making me aware of a rugby connection that he used to love rugby. There is some connection with the British Lions and also South Africa. And there's some kind of connection with South Africa. I know this man connects with rugby. He also shows me and what looks like a shoulder injury, a shoulder problem. I know because he makes me aware, which is why I'm slightly worried. This might be yours, Craig. Hopefully it's not. But he's making me aware that his personality changed towards the end of his life. He was very aware of the pain that he was in and how that affected him and how people around him. Dad passed. Okay, Ranella. Okay, do you understand dad loving rugby? There is something about the Springboks and South Africa and loving South Africa and being really important. Do you understand this connection with South Africa with dad? Because it's really important to him. And would you also understand, as mum, I'm originally from South Africa. I believe I'm with you. I'm going to keep going. Do you understand? Dad keeps making me aware of his shoulder and a problem that he had with his shoulder as well, Ranella. And I'm not sure if he had a fall before he passed, but there is some kind of fall. But it feels like an old injury as he makes me aware of this. Okay. He's also talking about mum and talking about there was a watch. There's a watch of mum's that was lost but then found. And I know this is a great piece of evidence, but he's talking about that. I also it sounds like the language that I'm hearing sounds like South African, like an Afrikaan kind of language that I'm hearing as well. And I've just heard that mum and dad epitomised love. They were against all odds. Their connection, their marriage was against all odds, but they made it work. Would you understand this information that I'm getting, Ranella? I keep getting a name that sounds like David or Daniel, and but I know it's a South African, or it sounds very foreign, like an Afrikaan name. So he suffered with mini strokes in his 70s. Yeah, okay. Would you understand that his personality changed a little bit with that? Because he admitted to being a little bit grumpy. He also wants to make me aware Afrikaans. Okay, thank you. Also with him, you understand this very much. It gives me this competitive feel. There's this real zest for life and real strength and a real undercurrent of who he was as a person. And that's how he wants to be remembered. Okay, really wants to be remembered. Do you understand the watch that you keep showing me? It was mum's. And I know it was lost, but it was found. I think this is more for my friend Bernadette Helen West. Bernadette Helen West. Awesome. Hopefully you're listening. We have a Michael on mum's side of the family, but he is still alive. I think that was for Craig's. Okay, that my dad was in hospital when he passed, and my mum was not able to be with him before he passed. Okay, my dad passed on the 22nd of November. My mum's birthday is on the 23rd of November. Interesting. Their wedding anniversary is also on the 23rd of November. I love that. I'm South African. Oh, also in a different way then. Awesome, is what I was trying to say. My son's name is Daniel. Okay, I'll take that. That feels much better. Yes, I know about the watch. Boom. There we go. Thank you so much. There's a real. Would you understand? And without we all know what happened to South Africa, but would you understand the struggles they had in their life? And there's a message here for you within this, and how they coped, how they got through, and the strength of character that they produced. So, oh, okay. I can see a picture now. Your profile picture. I'm not sure if that's football or rugby. Dad injured his shoulder in a rugby game in his younger years. There's a real thing of wanting to beat the British Lions as well. And I really, that's the first thing he showed me when Dad came in. He showed me the British Lions on tour in South Africa. But he's still trying to give me this inner strength from him to you, and remember where you come from and who you are. It's like a signature of who you are. And whatever life throws at you, there's nothing that can stop you. I hope you understand what Dad's trying to say. There's almost like a philosophy with Dad as he brings his message through. And also, I just heard him say he touched so many hearts. He helped so many people. He was quietly going about his business. And he just literally said something about the cup runneth over. Cup is always full. Always have that positivity in life. Okay, very competitive Dad, by the way, very strong-minded man, and lots of love that's coming in here from both of them. Mum was the opposite, very the opposite to Dad. Well, Dad was very masculine. Mum is literally very feminine, as they both connect with me, and they're both sending their love across here. Yes, I fully understand. Awesome, thank you. Can we leave their love with you, please, Bernadette? Can I also say, for everyone listening, for everyone that's been a part of tonight's interview, and obviously Craig as well, we can't thank you enough. We love your support. We have brilliant guests on. Please keep coming back, and don't forget to download our new app, SPTV, on Google Play. But before I go, Bernadette's just said extremely competitive. Mum was a lady, absolutely, but they complemented each other. The other thing I want to say to you, Craig, I nicked a question off a podcast that I watch. I'm not going to advertise them, but it's a great question from a gentleman called Constantine. If anyone knows that podcast, they know what I'm talking about. But they always ask a question, but mine's going to be centered more around mediumship. What is it that we're not talking about within mediumship and we should be? There's a big one. Oh, the SBTV app, according to Richard. Have you got yours yet? Yeah, I love that.
What are we not talking about that we should be? There's probably loads of stuff.
I should have warned you on this one, shouldn't I?
No. It's sometimes it's good to be put on the spot. What should we be talking about? Do you know what? I think really we should be talking about and going back to our basics, going back to the understanding of how it is that we've got to where we are. Because I think somewhere, not in all cases, I need to stress that, but I think we need to look back and realise that, if it weren't for the ancestors as such, the people that actually fought for us to be able to give us our, the right and the freedom to be able to do what we do, we wouldn't be where we are. And if it weren't for people that are no longer with us either, that have created opportunities, that brought people together, I think we need to realise that actually, you know what? Why act all individual when we're all one? Okay, some of us might not like other mediums, but that doesn't mean so we've got to run down their mediumship. What we can say is that listen, that person we don't get on, but you know what, their mediumship's good. Hey, that's it. You haven't got to say anything else. And I think also, just to remember, where we've all come from and what we're all here doing our best trying to do, and to spread that message of love and openness, and that actually nobody's better than anybody else in this field. Everybody's given opportunities. Some get more than others, but you know what? We're all playing our own part. We're on our own pathway. Somewhere along the line, we're going to meet each other. Help each other, for heaven's sake. Don't run each other down. Regardless, if you don't like them, just don't talk to them. It's simple. So I think for me, just go back to basics. Let's go back to the days of where we supported each other. We supported our churches. We sat in circle, and that, we were willing to listen and to actually learn about not just how we can be a great ambassador and for the spirit world, and how we can be a great medium, but learn from those that are no longer with us, how we got started, learn your history and how we've got to where we are. I think that's really what we need to be talking about, because it's all about how many followers did you get this week, how many people have been watching your videos, how many people did you get seated in that den. Do you know what? Who cares?
Yeah.
Just go out and just do the best that you can do and be the best that you can be. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That is beautiful. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're on again tomorrow. Well, we're back again in 2 weeks with another brilliant guest. Our guest in 2 weeks' time is a gentleman called John Johnson, the Natural Medium. So I'm looking forward to interviewing John. Hopefully he's been watching tonight. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks. But you're back first thing in the morning, Richard, I believe, with Adele and Laura for wellness and readings tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then at 8 p.m, mediumship training with Clara. That sounds good. So keep a lookout. But then if you downloaded the app, guys, you would know that already. So anyway, I'll see you soon. And thank you for supporting us. And thank you, Craig. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Don't forget, Thursday, 8 p.m. in 2 weeks' time. Take care, everybody.